Hi everyone and welcome. I first of all hope that sound is doing okay, and second of all, that all of you are ready to do some sprinting. As always, if you want to read together with me, then you're more than welcome. Please let me know in the chat or in the comments if you're watching afterwards what you are going to read. But if you want to do something else productive during the sprints, that's totally valid as well. And if you're even just here for the chat, that's perfectly fine too. Now, I am in a little bit of a different setting here because well my husband is out, so I'm home alone, and the dogs are always a little bit sad when I'm next to the Christmas tree because they cannot really sit together with me if they're too close to the Christmas tree. Balls are starting to fall. It's a whole mess. So because I'm home alone, because we can't really do anything else, and otherwise they are going to be alone because my husband is not with them, I just decided to sit on the couch with them. I had a Friday conversation last Friday, of course, over on Steve's channel here, and then the day afterwards, a Realm of the Elderlings chat about live ship traders on Joanna's channel, also here, and it seemed like the dogs were just more in favor of that. So let's try this way. They are quite quiet now, so hopefully it stays that way. If that's not the case, we'll have to try something else. But for now, they are okay. So, also apologies that yesterday it did not really work out. I have spranted, as Ellen apparently would say, more than enough on Discord, so I'm not really going to put any more time in that. But today I am ready to get some sprinting done. So I also mentioned yesterday on Discord, or maybe the day before, that I got a present from my husband. I normally have to wait until Christmas, but it's very difficult to be honest. So I am a little bit of a small child, and I keep asking for a small present. Just share one present. We have more than enough for Christmas. Small one to get in the holiday spirit. And so I was allowed to open one book, and I just picked one. I did not know what was in the present or in the gift, and it was Hogfather by Terry Pratchett. So I decided that that's a sign that I will have to try to squeeze it in around the holiday period because, of course, this is, well, first of all, I really want to start Terry Pratchett's Discworld, but this is one that has something to do with Christmas. So I just need to read it. But I am going to keep it for some later reading sprints because, well, first of all, last week and the week before, I was reading The Liar's Knot, which is the second book in the Rook and Rose trilogy, and I'm really enjoying that book. But with work being extremely hectic, every evening I'm too tired and I can't really wrap my brain around it. So I'm going to wait and just put that on pause until the holiday season or maybe next week when it's already slowing down at work. And I decided to just start a different one. So the one that I started was A Brightness Long Ago by Guy Gabriel Kay. Please be quiet. By Guy Gabriel Kay, which is an author that I've been saying I was going to try for years and I haven't. So in my last TBR video, I mentioned this one, I think, and also then Queen of Fire by Anthony Ryan as two books that I need to finish before the end of the year because otherwise it's just sad at this point. So I started this one and I am absolutely loving it. I am not that far in. I just finished part one, which is I want to say the 90-page mark, and it's a 500-page book. So I definitely need to make a little bit more progress, but yes, loving it. And it might be that I have a new top 10 book for 2022, just in December. I always love when that happens. I'm going to see what all of you guys have said. Chinese. Cleo, I'm not the biggest fan of Chinese because when we order it, there's quite a lot of sugar in it. And well, as a diabetic patient, that's not too good for me. But once in a while, I do order and it's perfect. It's just so cozy, especially in the evenings when you just want to chill, be lazy, have a book. Perfect vibe. But I do hope you get your food in time because that's always a little bit tricky when you see that the delivery guy is doing some weird stuff. If in the end you get your food and it's still hot, that's a plus. Hi, Hans. Susanna. Glad that a lot of you could make it. Yeah, I actually really liked how this turned out because I bought these shelves because they were quite cheap. And on the picture, they looked humongous. And then I put them up and they're not as big as I thought. This is the majority of my board games, by the way, because I don't have an incredible amount of them, but I even couldn't put all of them on. But to be fair, as you can see here, And then here at the bottom as well, I don't really utilize the space 100% because I do like it to be pretty as well. So probably if I would stack all of them like I have right here, I would be able to fit all of them in. But as I do right now, they don't fit. And I thought that I was going to have more storage, but in reality, I have less. Shadia. Yeah, I do know that quite a bit of people will hopefully be very excited that I'm starting Terry Pratchett. That also makes me a little bit nervous because if I don't like him, well, I have so high hopes that at this point I need to manage my expectations and not expect too much. Because if you're expecting all-time favorite, even if it's a good book, you'll still be a little bit disappointed. But yes, in one of these sprints, I will probably start it either next week or the week afterwards. And I think that the week afterwards, it's technically already December 26th or something like that, but I still count it as Christmas. Hi. Yeah, I've heard so many great things about Hogfather, and the thing is, I wasn't really sure if it was going to be a good place to start because every time that I look it up on Reddit, people say like, yeah, it's actually part of a series and it might not be the best one to start with. But I recently saw Derry talk about it on another Discord, and she said that it's perfect standalone to read. You don't really need any prior information. And then I also got it from my husband, so it felt like a sign that I need to give it a try pretty soon. The Fine Print by Lauren Asher. I've never heard of that book, but if you're hoping to finish it, I can imagine that you're already pretty far in and that you are enjoying it. So hooray for that. But I've never heard of it. Is it fantasy or is it something completely different? Hi, Marlene. Glad you're able to join. The Christmas Killer. Okay. Making dinner first. Well, it does sound like a book to read during Christmas. I don't really know if it's a Christmassy vibe. Is it thriller? Is it horror? Is it like a romance in the end where we have somebody who does not enjoy Christmas and then all of a sudden he's the biggest Christmas fan ever? I have no idea, but that title is intriguing. Thanks, Jeroen. I'm really hoping that during the holiday season I'll be able to try to play a little bit more board games. I actually bought Secret Dictator of World War II for my husband, which is, to be honest, an awful title if you don't know what the board game is about. But it's a really fun adult deduction game where you have a hidden traitor who, well, I guess that most people can imagine what he's called. And I really enjoy that game. And I know that my husband does as well, but you need to have 8 people to play it. And usually we don't really have enough people. So I always think that it's not really worth the money. But then I figured, well, board games, they don't really expire. I do hope that we will be playing board games for the next 50 years. So if you look at it like that, it's worth the money, even if we only play it twice a year. And then during the holidays, of course, people come over, and I always find it more cozy to play a board game instead of watching TV or playing video games, even though I do know that a lot of other people like that. I'm just a board game fan. And during the holidays, people are more open to that kind of thing. Hi, Paramita. Yeah, honestly, it's one of those things I knew that that was going to happen. That as soon as I picked up Guy Gable K, I was going to call myself an idiot that I didn't pick him up sooner, and that's exactly what happened because I'm loving it. And I know that a lot of people compare it to Robin Hobb, but to be honest, I'm just watching through the chat. Everything is fine still. To be honest, I find it also very comparable to Jacqueline Carey's writing style. And this one in particular, I find the world a little bit similar as well, because we have a society that is Venetian inspired, if I don't misremember that, or if I don't just have a very different idea of what history is in reality. But I think that this is Venetian inspired. And you have all of these lords and ladies, and they talk to each other with a lot of respect and they use the proper terms, but they are extremely vicious. And that's something that you also see in the Phaedra trilogy by um, Jacqueline Carey. And I also think that the writing style is very similar. I love Jacqueline Carey's writing style, so this is extremely high up there. It reads so fluently, but also in a way that Guy Gavriel Kay definitely uses more words than he should. But everything that he uses is to increase your enjoyment and to really make the scene come to life. So yes, loving it so far. Yes, Josh, I know that so many people have told me that I should really try Guy Gable K, and I'm so happy that it's finally happening before the year is over. Thank you, Hans. Okay, so the food arrived. Perfect. Painting during the sprints. Oh, that's so lovely. Yes, it's definitely colder right now. I'm so happy that I have one of the dogs here next to me because I think that they're cold as well. And something that I didn't mention, I think that some of you, if you are on Discord, you know, normally I work from home on Wednesdays, and then I do try to go out during my lunch break with the dogs, just so I can have a little bit of sunlight, which is quite important in winter, and just get outside, get a fresh nose. But then yesterday I heard that I had to work at the lab today, so was feeling a little bit down. And then this morning I found out that I did not have to go to the lab after all. So I did still have a very nice walk with the dogs, but I'm starting to feel that they're either extremely spoiled or I overestimate them as very small dogs. Maybe it is too cold for them right now. But they came inside and they immediately wanted to be on the couch next to the stove, and now they're very close to me. So I think that they're feeling quite cold as well. And that the weather, well, Belgium is not really an extreme temperature kind of country, but still, it's colder now than it was a couple of weeks ago. And I feel that it was almost spring weather, and then all of a sudden it was below the freezing point. So I can imagine that maybe their coats are not adjusted at this point, and I should maybe take a little bit more care about that. Oh, root canals. Yeah, I've I have a friend of mine who has a lot of tooth issues, and root canals sound like a lot of pain. I don't think that I've ever had one, and I think that if I did have one, I would probably still remember. So I do hope that the hurting stops soon, Cleo, and that at the very least you can still enjoy your meal. Such a Long Journey by Rohinton Mystery. Oh, okay. Definitely let me know if that's one that I should put on the list, Paramita, because for my goals, I definitely said that I was not going to put the goal to read anything other than fantasy because I don't want to put too much pressure on myself. But I do want to read a little bit more broader. I just don't want to count all of it. But this sounds like something that, if it's at least if it's fiction, if it's not like a history book, that I might enjoy. Pratchett is your fave. That's definitely high praise. I really don't know what to expect. I think that it's the kind of humor that I will like, but need to keep my expectations low. Yes, Harp of Kings. So happy for you, Susanna. Have you read it already, or is it a reread, or is it the first time? Because I think that Harp of Kings is that the first one in that trilogy, or is it further along? I know that I own the first two, but I haven't read them yet. I still have a little bit of a backlog to get through for Juliet Marillier, but it is going to be a 5-star read. Also, didn't start with the first book. Yeah, it's difficult because a lot of people say just read chronologically because, well, that's what the author published them as, and if you would be reading them at the time of publication, you had no other option. So that's usually the safest option. But with Terry Pratchett, I hear so many different things that I honestly don't really know what to do. And up until this point, I had The Color of Magic on my physical TBR, which is the first book that was published. So, of course, it was a no brainer. If I was going to read a book for the first time by Terry Pratchett, that was going to be the one. But now that I also have this one and this time of the year, I'm probably going to start with this one, maybe then finish that series. I don't know what this is a part of the Hogfather series, and otherwise just start with the first one in chronological order. The dog is being a little bit high maintenance right now. Subject 21. Okay. Well, I think that you're going to be painting, Hans, but if you do decide that you're one to read, then I do hope that you will enjoy Subject 21. Decide. No shame, Chadia. We're all in the same, well, at least I'm in the same boat here. Because I just decided that reading The Liar's Knot, 3 reading sprints in a row, was just a little bit sad. So I just decided to start another one. Peace talks. It does seem that you're flying through those. So I'm so lucky. I'm so lucky. I'm so happy for you. that you found a long series that you enjoy. Often, when you have longer series, there's always a point for me, at least, where it starts to be the same formula, and that's not really nice to read about. But so far, what I've heard of Dresden is that they just get better and better. Ooh, contemporary romance. Okay. I haven't really read a lot of those. And then around the Christmas time, I actually got the feeling that I wanted to read more of those. And Kitty from Cam is definitely an influence here because she started talking about like cozy romance during Christmas. And now I want to read a cozy romance during the Christmas season. But I've never read any of those. So no idea if I will like them or hate them. Okay, yeah, a serial killer in the Christmas Killer, it's probably not going to be a cozy vibe. That's definitely nostalgia. If you have those older games, and especially for your dad, it's fun that you can then still play the games that he liked. In my family, we never really played games, and if we did, it was just to make me happy. Like I got games for Christmas, and then everybody, my older siblings, who are more than 10 years older than me, they just had to play with me. But usually they didn't really enjoy it. Yeah, I know, Jeroen, and it's the type of game that you really need to have the right group because you need to lie, you need to cheat each other, you need to be like fake angry. I'm not that dictator. What are you talking about? You are. And if you don't really have that vibe with your group, if you have somebody who does not really understand it, you need to do that. The game falls apart. So it's definitely one that it the group can make or break that game. Collecting slowly really is the way to go. I've and that's always what I do when I'm new to a hobby. I go all in and I don't I neglect all my other hobbies and I go all in on a hobby. And I, especially with board games where you are dependent of other people, I bought too many in a short period of time and then I was hassling everybody to play with me, and then I had to play solo, which is fine, but that's not why I buy board games. So it's always a little bit sad when you want to play a game with other people and then you have to play them solo because nobody wants to play with you. So now I've definitely been more deliberate in what I'm buying. So for example, Pandemic Legacy, that's something that I am prioritizing right now, and I am playing together with my husband, even though we only played January. We really enjoyed that one. So I'm buying more of the idea. Well, it's probably going to be the two of us 90% of the time, just buy games that are for that player count. And then Secret, the not named dictator, that's one that's definitely an outlier that I would normally not buy. But I've been thinking about that one for years because I really enjoyed it and I wanted to have my own copy. So it was time. Wingspan. That's such a great game. It's one of those games that I don't play for a long while, and then I pick it up and I introduce it to people, and it's a success. And then I think, why are we not playing that more? But for me, that is one of those games that I think works best with more people because there is one card that gives you an advantage if another player does something. So if you're with more people, that's a stronger type of card. And with two people, when I play it together with my husband, we almost never buy or produce that type of card. So it's better with more people, but I really enjoy it. My favorite is Marco Polo, which is a Euro game, and my husband hates it. So it's been a long while since I played it. But Terraforming Mars here, that's my husband's favorite. And I'm easily pleased. So we play that game quite a bit. Ooh, a Megan Lindholm book. I've At this point, I am saying that Robin Hobb is, well, my favorite author, or at least Realm of the Elderlings is my favorite series. I don't really know if Robin Hobb is my favorite author per se, but I've never really read anything other by her. So I am quite curious to, first of all, read Soldier's Son, which is written by Robin Hobb or under that pen name, but also read more by Megan Lindholm, because I think The Reindeer People or something like that, it's the first one in a duology. That's fantasy, but it is written by Megan Lindholm. And I'm curious to see what the difference is between the two per se, because I always thought that Megan Lindholm was not fantasy, but apparently that's not true. Definitely, Josh. Books and board games are the best combination, and I'm sure you will agree with that. Hmm. Okay, different than Realm of the Elderlings. That's interesting. But at least you're still liking it. I have no idea, Marlene, but at least you know what I'm talking about and the fellow Dutch people as well. But honestly, I translate so many sayings from Dutch to English that sometimes I'm wondering, does anybody know what I'm talking about, or do they just think that I'm saying some really strange things? Yeah, they were quite excited about going outside, and there were a couple of puddles, but they were all frozen. And even though the dogs are 4 and 5 years old, I'm sure that they've seen frozen lakes and frozen surfaces before, but they just couldn't understand. So I think that it's been too long, and they forgot that that's a possibility. I think that it's especially that because it's not extremely cold, it's just a little bit in the negative degrees. But a couple of weeks ago, it was still 20. So it's the change that's really jarring. Hi, RA. Hmm. Pratchett mildly entertaining, but he didn't really grab me. That said, I recently purchased Small Gods. Small Gods is together with Neil Gaiman, right? Neil Gaiman is another author that I definitely want to read more of. I've only read one, Stardust, but I do hope to read more of his work, and especially the fairy tales. With Terry Pratchett, I don't know. I am going to probably read them as audiobooks, just because I really think that they would fit well. And especially if the humor works for me, I'll be chuckling out loud while driving to work. It's a vibe that I'm all here for, but I don't know. And if they're not all-time favorites, that's also fine by me, especially because they are so small and I think that they are quite easy reads. So if it's then just a fun read to read in between other works that are great palate cleansers, I'll be happy with that as well. Harp of Kings is the first in the trilogy and it's my first read through. Okay, perfect. Well, Blackthorn and Grimm I am going to read starting next month by Juliette Merlier. It's also a trilogy, by the way, if other people don't know. So if I finish that one, it's the perfect time to pick up Harp of Kings. Although it's not on the planning for 2023, things can change, especially if it's my planning. Things can change. No problem, Chadia. I think that I'm so behind with the comments anyway that I will not notice. It's one of the two, but somehow I think that he was a little bit angry or offended that I told him to move aside because now he just left. Not liking guards, and going postal. Well, I don't know if you dislike one of the sub series, if that means that the entire Discworld is not for you, or if they are vastly different between the sub-series. I honestly have no idea because I do know that somebody recently asked Derry where they should continue with after reading Hogfather, and she had like an entire list of questions. Do you like this or this or this? Do you like this type of humor? And depending on that, she said what you should continue with. So I'm thinking that they're all so different that maybe one sub-series might not be your thing, but the other one might. I have no idea. Thank you. I love both my dogs, but the one that you saw just earlier, the brown one, that's the sweetest one of the two. The other one has an attitude. Yes. And then, especially, I still remember because this is a core memory. I got Clue for Christmas and I was so happy. And I was basically harassing everybody in the household to play with me. And then halfway through the game, I realized that I got a rule wrong, which, if you play Clue, where it's about deduction, that's a big issue. So I explained, yeah, I got a rule wrong. We have to start again. And my brother, who was I think that he was going through puberty a little bit. He was 18, 19 years old. He just threw his cards on the table and said, I'm done. So that was a very nice Christmas. It's really good to hear that so many people adore Blackthorn and Grimm. Because everybody keeps talking about Daughter of the Forest, Seven Waters trilogy, and although I do agree that that's amazing, you don't really hear a lot of people talk about her other series. And I haven't read Blackthorn and Grimm yet, but I have read a couple of other series by her, and they are amazing. So You really should do that, Cleo. It games and books. Perfect combination. Love a long series. I think that it's comforting if you don't really need to keep track. Like, I'm hoping that Discworld will be that for me. Just a comfort read, reading in between bigger series. It's like coming home almost, the feeling of nostalgia. But you don't really need to read one every month in order to keep track of everything. And that's what I hope Discworld will be. I think that maybe Dresden Files is a little bit similar. I find that Realm of the Elder Links is the same, by the way, because you have those sub-series. So I think that you will be fine. And that's why I like Realm of the Elder Links so much. You can read a trilogy, then you can have months of a pause where you read other things. And when you come back, it's just fun coming back, but you don't really need to have a lot of background knowledge. You don't need to hit the Wikipedia pages to be on track again. Exactly. I think that it happened in the last couple of years, even maybe the last 2 years. And of course, that's the same time that I started reading it. But I feel like before on BookTube, you didn't really have a lot of people. Chris Bookish Cauldron, of course, talked about Robin Hobb. Badger Reads talked about Robin Hobb. But now, a lot of booktubers, big and small, are starting to read Rob, and it's Rob Hobb, and it's awesome. Especially if you like the series, just to have all of those discussions and seeing other people excited, it's so fun. I hope we get there, Josh, because we won the first game January, but I'm already thinking that February will be a little bit more difficult because for the first one in pandemic, it felt like January is just to explain the difference of rules to you. These are the mechanics that are different from the normal pandemic game. And then now I think that February will show you what's actually different in the game and that you need to use different tactics. So I hope we will survive. Ooh, that's nice. Because I thought that Blackthorn and Grimm was a trilogy, and then the sequel was more events after it, but that the set of characters were completely unrelated. So if it's next generation, that's something that Juliet Merlier does quite well, and that I love. So that's nice. That's exciting. I actually almost never buy expansions. I only got a couple of expansions for Terraforming Mars, just because if I need to pay 30 euros for an expansion, I usually just buy another game. But I've come to the conclusion that if there are games that you absolutely adore, it's actually better to make them better and then you can play them even more because that's a game that you know you love. So I have no idea if the Asia, I think you have Asia expansion Europe as well. I think that there are three or maybe even four at this point. But I don't know if they're all as good or if there's one that is vastly superior. Marco Polo is just it's looks extremely boring because it is trading in the Mediterranean. But I love worker placement and it's with dice as workers, which I love as well. So yes. And I do hope that I will play it in 2023 because it's been too long. By the way, we have been talking for half an hour already. I have three timers. Two of them are 45 minutes and one is 30. So by the time that I'm done with the chat, I'm up to speed. Please let me know if you want to have the 30 or the 45 one to start with. Yes, exactly. Going all into a hobby. And it's actually a little bit of a shame because especially with books or board games, you still need to discover what your taste is. And then by the time that you discovered it, you realize that you have a couple of board games or books that just are not your taste. And it's really a little bit of a shame and a waste of money. So now I try to go into a hobby more or less slowly, discover my taste, and then buy very specifically what I know I will love. Okay, I am going to remember that, Ron. And if I do forget, please just say it again because my memory is horrible. But usually, when people come back time after time, I remember. Fictional characters, but it's based on real events. Yeah, that's something that I've said a couple of times. Dark fantasy, no matter how dark, it's escapism in a way because it's not connected to our own world. But as soon as it's real life events, That just hits differently. Okay, it's good to hear that Reindeer People by Megan Lindholm then is good. Because after I am going to reread Realm of the Elderlings, but I hope that I will enjoy rereading. I think so, but at the very least, I need to have some Megan Lindholm slash Robin Hobb books that I have not read yet as more or less a second option plan, that I still have something that I know I will love. Elden Ring, not going to give that one a try, but Realm of the Elderlings, yes. More than one Malazan notebook. Yeah, well, Malazan is one of those series that you need to prioritize. And I do hope that Discworld is completely different because even though I enjoyed Malazan, I'm not in the right headspace right now with too many other series that I want to read. Malazan is going to happen one day, but then it needs to be my priority series of that year because I cannot do that. Reading Malazan and reading 10 other series on the side, not possible for me. So for Wingspan, Europe and Oceania, which I just received and seems to add a lot more than Europe, and now Asia. They are planning for all major continents to be included. Ooh, okay. So then we will also get Africa and South America. But it is good to know that the that Europe is maybe the one that now that three are out, you should not really get. That one is not necessary. Although then Hilder says, I love them all. Okay, it is going to be a tough choice. Okay, everybody is saying 45. Let's do that. Reading or I will cross the 100 threshold in Age of Empires. Well, that is a nice goal to reach. So I think that either one of those, it will be a win. And then Asia for Wingspan, you have a 1-2 player extra game mode. Okay. Now, I must say that usually when we get together, it's either it's the two of us or it's four people, and then sometimes it's eight. So six, that doesn't really happen too often. But still, if you are with bigger groups, that's a nice addition. Reading journal and put quotes in there. Yes, it's something that I want to do, but first for 2023, third time's a charm. I am going to try to have a reading journal from start to finish. I always start pretty strong, and then around April, I just do not keep up. But reading journal, hopefully it will happen in 2023. And having nice quotes in there is also lovely. So I am going to catch up with the chat afterwards because otherwise we're never going to read or sprint or do anything productive. But the 45-minute timer, I have it right here. Going to put it down. But for now, enjoy reading and happy sprinting. So, sprinting is done. I hope that all of you made a little bit of progress. I see that unfortunately Hans needs to leave, but I hope that you do have a wonderful time with friends, Hans. I did make a little bit of progress. I read 30 pages and I'm loving it more and more. It is multi POV, but the way that this is told and the way that the different POVs are woven into each other, the way that we learn more about the world, I'm really enjoying this. And I am going to have a hard time not already messing up my TBR for 2023 because I did not have any Guy Gabriel K books on the TBR. But honestly, I am going to have to read more by him. I do think that he has quite a bit of standalones. So I think that that will probably be my main priority. But the city of Sarantium, if that is correct, has been mentioned here a couple of times, and I think that that is part, or at least the story that takes place in that city, is a trilogy. So now I don't know, but I'm really enjoying this one. Ah, and by the way, it's at the back of the book. It says "Children of Earth and Sky," and I think that that might be the second book in this. This is a standalone, but I think that there's a collection of standalones. I don't know if that's the only one in this world, Children of Earth and Sky, or if there's another one, but maybe I should stay in the same zone after this one. But unless something extremely unpredictable happens that I do not like, um, might be a little bit too early into the story, but this is a 5-star prediction right now. I do think that this is going to be pretty high in my top 10 of the year, just because the writing style is one of the best that I've seen. And I'm really enjoying the characters. I'm really enjoying the story. I'm enjoying the world. So far, not really magic in it yet. We do have, of course, a fictional world. We have a fictional religion so far, but no magic. However, I just realized that, so it's definitely not a problem that I'm having. Ooh, 30 pages left. Okay, so unless you have other commitments, you're definitely going to finish that one during the sprints. That's fun. As long as yes. I think that for me, the journal was the first time I tried to have a lot of just drawings and doodles and stuff like that. But I realized that I cannot draw for the life of me. I'm really not somebody who has a big imagination. I'm not an artist. So I stopped after I drew a dragon that looked more like a chicken, to be honest. So then last year I thought, well, I can do stuff with washi tape. I can just stick some nice pieces of paper on the page and it will look nice as well. And it actually did. And I am quite proud of what I did at that point. But I don't really have storage room or a desk of my own. So I always did that in the living room or on the living room table. And then it was a huge mess because sometimes you just want to make one spread. You just want to work on the reading journal for 10 minutes. And if you then need to put all of your stationery on the table and then afterwards clean everything up and you're having to spend more time on that than the actual journaling, I just gave up. So I don't really know what I'm going to do for the new year moving forward. Either I do need to make a little zone for myself that I don't always have to clean up, or I'm going to need to keep it minimalistic. But it's better, like you say, Ron, to keep it minimalistic and at the very least be able to maintain that habit until the end of the year than to have a beautiful, beautiful spread for 2 months and then having to stop because you just can't maintain it. So maybe I just need to be realistic here. Nice. A great audiobook in the evenings. Perfect. The audiobook that I am listening at the moment is The Veiled Throne. I listened to it a little bit during the walk this during my lunch break with the dogs. And this is one that I'm really enjoying as well. Even though it is, of course, a thick book, there's a lot going on, but it works perfectly as an audiobook. I do hope that you enjoyed A History of What Comes Next, by the way, Cleo. I think that Lions of Al Rassan, if I'm not mistaken, has a lot of religion in it. So after I've heard that, it definitely made the list. But to be honest, every Guy Gabriel K book that I hear people talk about sounds extremely interesting. So I definitely have a lot to pick from. Sarantin Mosaic. Is that the one that is about Sarantium? Well, probably, right? They do talk a little bit about mosaics, but that they I think that that might have something to do with the world building, possibly, a little bit of magic because one of the characters mentions that she has seen some mosaics, but she doesn't know what they mean. 20 pages in the mirror and the light, but I got distracted in the middle. We've all been there. I'm actually quite proud that I managed to finish 30 pages now. Okay, yes, was duology. I also should pick up another Guy Gavin in 2023, Song of Arbon this year. And you enjoyed it, I suppose, if you want to read more. Like I said in last week's sprints, I think, or in a different video, there is a booktuber. Her name is Sarah, but I already, as always, I forgot what her channel name is. But she is going to read a lot of Guy Gavin next year, like one book per month. And I am going to definitely keep an eye out for her reviews as well, just seeing what she enjoyed, what she didn't really like that much. And I'm probably just going to see and pick up a couple of books. Like I said, The Children of Earth and Sky for sure. And then probably Lines of Al Rassan and that duology, Serentine Mosaic. And then if I read all of those in 2023, I would be quite proud of myself. Ooh, 60 pages. That's good progress. Oh, disappointment. It's not about the 1971 war, but about daily life of one civilian family during the war. They are affected indirectly through inflation. Well, especially if you were expecting something else, I can definitely see how that's a disappointment. For me, since I do not like, well, I wanted to say since I do not like military fantasy, but of course this is not fantasy. So that's going to be different, of course. It's a shame you're not enjoying it as much as you liked. Book is very boring. Affectations in the writing style. Ooh, okay. Are you going to continue, Paramita, or are you going to DNF it? Didn't read yet. I had a pasta and TV sprint. It's all valid as long as you had fun. What were you watching? I am together with my husband doing the, of course, A Song of Ice and Fire, Game of Thrones. Yes, we are rewatching Game of Thrones. We just finished season one. We are watching it very slowly, and we now saw the first episode of season two. So that's happening, and I also watched that Ricky Gervais Afterlife. Is that his TV show? I watched the first episode, but at this point it's been a month, and I actually forgot that I started watching that. But I liked the first episode, so I'm probably going to continue maybe watching that one on my own. Lines of Al Ghassan is a TBR veteran. Well, since I have not been reading fantasy for 10 years, I don't have books that have been on my TBR for longer than 10 years. So at least there's that. My laptop just failed at producing sound. First sprint I watched on it, but in the last 10 minutes of the timer, I stopped making sound. Oh, that's annoying. I do hope that's, well, sorry for saying, but I was thinking that maybe it's a me problem, but if you're the only one who doesn't hear me, it's going to be a laptop problem. But I do hope that you'll be able to fix it because laptops are so expensive. And especially when something happens with the sound, with a laptop, everything is in one small thingy. It's difficult to then make sure that it works without having to spend a lot of money. So I hope that it works. Okay, that's good. Cleo, I feel like there are so many books that you love and I hate, and vice versa. Maybe Guy Gavin really is the exception to the rule that we will both really enjoy. Well, reading sprints on a phone, of course, it's the same. It doesn't really matter. But for the laptop, I hope you'll be able to fix it. Finish it, but still a very disappointing read. I hope you pick up a book after this one that you will like more because I have a feeling that you've had quite a bit of disappointments lately. That's never fun. Yeah, exactly. Every time I push through a book that I'm not really feeling that positively about, I always regret it. But to be honest, Ron, Paramita DNFs quite a bit. So she definitely has learned the lesson that if you're not enjoying a book, you should DNF it. But if you're more than 70% through, I can understand wanting to push through and see if at least the ending is a little bit redeemable. But no. Ooh, Vampire Diaries. That's one of those few series that I have heard of because usually I have no idea, but I've never really seen it. I think that did that came out in the same time period as Twilight, but it's completely different, right? Other than that, we also have vampires. Is it? Oh, I have heard of the Suki series, and I think that that's also about vampires. Is this the series that is based on those books, or am I making no sense? Thinking of reading one or two Guy Gavin K books before I pick up or resume some fantasy series after Dresden. That would be a good idea. Now that I'm on my Guy Gabriel K high as a newbie, I approve of that plan. Yes, Afterlife, exactly. I have watched The Office, and I don't think that I've seen extras. Ricky Gervais is a comedian that I really enjoyed his stand-up shows because you can just watch them on YouTube. When I was, I think, 10 years ago, found him hilarious. And then I also watched The Office. I actually like the UK version more than the US one. But then a little bit of a hiatus. And then a friend of mine said that Afterlife is really good. And I already remembered some of the jokes or recognized some of the jokes from his stand-up comedian shows. So that's a plus. So far, Steve, the night is still young, so anything can happen. But, and I have mentioned this on Discord, I think that it really is a problem with my laptop. I'm not a tech savvy person, but this is a MacBook and it's the first MacBook that I've had. And I think 2 months ago, they asked for an update of a new system. So I said, yes, let's update. And afterwards, I kept getting very annoying pop-ups that something was wrong. And I always had to click cancel because I couldn't really do anything else. And then I talked to a colleague of mine, and she said, never immediately update the MacBook because there are going to be bugs. Wait at least a month. And since then, I've had the robot voice. And I also had it at a work meeting yesterday, which was funny at first because somebody was talking in a robot voice, and I thought, huh, I'm not the only one. She's having the same problem. And then I realized that everybody was talking in a robot voice, and it was definitely a me problem. So, yeah, that's how I realized that it happens on online meetings as well. So, it's not just a StreamYard problem, it's also a Teams and a Zoom problem. But if I switch microphones, like just 2 seconds, and then go back to the microphone that I was using, it stops. So, I don't really know what the problem is, but maybe that's a way that I can easily fix it if it arises again. Okay, sound on the phone is fine. There's an author for both of us out there, and I think that we found him. I know that you mentioned, Chadia, that it's not a novella, like I was thinking the entire time, and it's actually like a beast of a book. But still in my head, I have that it's a novella. So you mentioning that you're 60% through, I'm thinking, that's slow progress, but it's a beast. Definitely not a less than 100-page book like I have in my head. First Gabriel Gay book I read that has a special place in my heart. Hmm. Every time that I hear how he uses our history and then uses some elements in a secondary world, that's so smart. I think that multiple people have done that, but I've never really thought about it before. So he's the first author that I know that he's doing it. And so far, great job. Religious parallel to Christianity, Islam, and Judaism. Religion in books. That's always a buzzword for me. And that's what I also really enjoyed with Veil Throne. There's quite a lot of philosophy going on and people talking about theology and why do we believe in the gods and what does this mean and what do these myths mean and how the myths changed over time. And I'm really enjoying that so far as well. So the two books that I am reading, I am quite enjoying. And then The Liar's Knot that I'm pausing, I also enjoyed. So December is going to be a great month for me. And hopefully 2023 will also be the year for all of us. Okay, Suki Stackhouse is True Blood. Yes, many vampire series apparently. I need to look this up. So you have Vampire Diaries and you have True Blood. And then you probably have a couple others, but those are the two most well-known ones, I think. Jolene Reeds and Cleo found a common favorite author, and I was here to witness the glorious moment. It finally happened. It's a time of miracles, I suppose. Vampire diarrhea. That's the thing. Sometimes you really start talking crap about the series, and then you watch it and you think, I've been an idiot. You never know, Cleo. It's always a little bit unpredictable, but House of Leaves. Oof. If you, as an anti-DNFer, are debating and want to quit, I think that it's time to quit. But you're one-sixth in. How long is that book? I think it's 500 pages. To be honest, you already made it far beyond the point that I decided to quit it. And it is a shame, but if you're not enjoying it, you're just not enjoying it. You cut your losses. Pick up a book that you will love. I feel like I'm like the little devil on your shoulder who's telling you to do the bad thing, but DNFing is good if you're not enjoying it. Ron, you're a saint. I don't know why people do this. Last year I had, well, to be honest, I re-listened to my robot voice and it's horrible, but at least you can hear what I'm saying. Last year I did sprints and somebody said like, "Oh yeah, your sound is not the best." And when I listened afterwards, it was horrible. And people stuck around. You guys are saints. Being human. Okay, I've never heard of that one before, but I do like vampires, werewolves, and ghosts. If it's not too scary. But I'm thinking that won't really be an issue. House of Leaves is a beast of a book, and it's. I know that there are fans of the book who say it's the best thing ever, but it's. I feel like the DNFers are in awe of your ability to finish books even if you dislike them, and then you are in awe of DNFers. It's always grass is greener on the other side. I'm quite sure that you will like Sword of Kagan. I really enjoyed that one, and I think most people will, even though the the booktubers that I've heard talking about that one say that it's amazing. It's one of the best books that they've ever read. And I don't think that that's. I'm. I loved it. Some of the sections are amazing, and then others drag a little. And the ending, it could have ended a little bit sooner for me. But just for those instances that it was amazing, it's just worth reading the book. And I still think that it's an incredible read. And then Kaikei, I'm not exactly sure. I really enjoyed that one, but I also don't know anything about the original myth, and I am a sucker for myths, so I'm easily pleased. I've heard quite a bit of people say that they did not like Kaikei. And I think that you are also more of a critical reader than me, so maybe you will have some issues with that one. But Sword of Kaigen, I have high hopes. Ah, yes, of course, you are going back and forth. But sometimes, if you like the writing style, you just want to savor it a little bit more. I think that I'm going to definitely do the same thing with the last book of Realm of the Elderlings, or at least that's my prediction. It could also be that I just want to know more, and especially if bad things are starting to happen, you just need to continue. So I don't know, but I will be sad if I finish this series. So I will try to get through it slowly. Marlene giving Buffy the Vampire Slayer a little bit of love. Yeah, I was too young for that series when it came out, and now it's a little bit cringe if you didn't grow up with it. But I also never gave it a proper chance. So maybe I shouldn't be talking. Especially since everybody else seems to agree with you. Buffy on your lap and Faith purring in your ear. I love it when you can name your pets with favorite characters or after favorite characters. Wow, English. But my two dogs are named just because I like the names. But if I have a female pet, I want to call it Patience. from Realm of the Elderlings, just because I think that that's a very cool name. I have been asking for a pet hamster for years at this point, but I don't think that it's going to happen soon. But if that happens, Patience is going to be the name. Hi, Evie. End of your workday. Yes, you made it. 710 pages, House of Leaves. Yeah, you can use it as a sprint book for December because, at the very least, I think that having us behind you and saying, yes, you can do it, Jeroen, it will help. It's the type of book where you need that. Okay, maybe I'm not so sure that Cleo will love it after hearing you or seeing you say that, Paramita, but I I definitely didn't love it as much as some other people said, and because of that, I finished that book almost disappointed. But after giving it a week's thought, I realized this is still one of the best books that I've read this year. It didn't make my top 10. It would have made my top 20, I think. Still, great. And I think that there are two scenes that I found amazing. But I do remember reading the first 100 pages and going on Mike's Discord and saying, I don't know what this is about. Everybody's saying that it's amazing. The start, it's not amazing. There was a lot of info dumping at the start, I think. There were also some in world terminology that was thrown around without really introducing you to it. So I found the beginning jarring. But then from the 100 page to 500 page mark, 5 stars all around. And then I think 500 to 600, I didn't like that much either. Enjoy your dinner, Susanna. Luckily, I still have Silence of the Lambs as a walking book, which is a quick read. Okay. Daughter of the Forest. Yes. Nettle and Bone is such a great book. I read that one physically, but I enjoyed it a lot. I still think that Raven and the Reindeer by T. Kingfisher is my favorite one by her. But yes, Nettle and Bone was great as well. And I think that I have another retelling on my shelf. So The Raven and the Reindeer is a Snow Queen retelling, but I have Bryony and Roses, if that's possible, which is a Beauty and the Beast retelling. And all of her retellings are quite short, I think around 200 pages. So also perfect standalones to read in between. But Daughter of the Forest will then be your physical read while you're walking, right, Jubin? I think that you're going to like it. Even though you're not the biggest fan of romance, I think that Juliette Marillier is going to blow you away. But don't get your hopes up, but I'm hopeful. Okay, so apparently in this little corner of the internet, I'm the only one who absolutely adored Sword of Kaigen while still acknowledging its weaknesses. Yes, the dual chapter. I think that that was definitely my favorite part as well, but I still enjoyed the other parts too. Ah, beloved, yes. And a golden retriever, how fitting. Because golden retrievers are just one furry ball of love. The dog's names are Odie. Well, officially it's Odilon, but we always call him Odie. And Odilon is from a Belgian TV show, The Code Madame, which I loved as a child and growing up. To be honest, it's one of those TV shows that were always on in the evenings that you could watch as a family. And then the other one is called Leo from Leonardo, but we also just call him Leo. And I would like to have a third little Shetland sheepdog. So Odie is the beige color, and then Leo is a little bit, how do you say it? It's blue marble, but I would like to have a black one and call him Sam from Samwise because I think that that would be the cutest trio ever. But at this point, three dogs are just not manageable, but it would be quite cute. True. The best feeling is when you go into a book not really expecting too much and then have all of a sudden feeling this is going to be a favorite read. I hope that I will have that with some of my books that I have for 2023 because I am going to start Greenbone Saga. And to be honest, I have a fear that I will DNF the first book, but at this point, I'm just really curious. And I also have like the tiny hope that I might absolutely adore it. So I definitely understand that. Negative and underwhelming comments are helpful just to keep your expectations manageable. Ooh, I actually didn't know that the new ML Wang was coming out, especially because I'm trying not to be too invested with the new releases. I have a couple of sequels that I'm interested in, and then maybe one or two standalones. But so far, not really an entire list yet. But I think that ML Wang has a trilogy that is set in the same world, and quite a number of people have told me that it's not as good as Sword of Kaigen. And Sword of Kaigen was good, and I liked it, but at the same time, I don't think that she's the author for me. I like the events in the story, and I like the relationship between mother and son. That's something that you don't really see too often, and that was fresh at the time. But I'm not really dying to read anything new by her. But for example, I still haven't read Babel by R.F. Kuang, while The Poppy War was a trilogy that I really enjoyed. So unless it's all-time favorite author, I'm never really on the lookout for a sequel. While The Witch's Heart by Genevieve Gornichek, she is coming out with a new standalone next year, and that is on my anticipated releases list. I'm just getting through the chat again, but for the new sprints, 45 minutes or 30. Let me know. And when I get to the answers, we will start sprinting again. Give me a break, Cleo. The Cot Madame, my grandma really enjoyed it. So we watched together. And I think that I was also so young that the Cot Madame was okay. Like Buffy was for teenagers. I was below the teenage age at that point. I still need to watch that video of yours, by the way. I think that you read three cannibalism related books. Really liked that thumbnail, but I still haven't watched it. It's on my watch later list, which is growing into a ridiculous size, to be honest. Tender as the Flesh is one of those books that I still think about sometimes, and it's been over a year since I've read it. I think it was a masterpiece, but I still don't know if I found the act of reading it enjoyable. Okay, so another book that we have in common. Yes, he's called after Leonardo DiCaprio. And to be honest, he's just as vain. So it's quite fitting. Well, Greenbaum Saga is one of those books that made my sorry, that made my 3-star predictions list, I think half a year ago. So I don't know. Times change, I suppose, and now I have the feeling that I might enjoy it. But at the very least, I have the first two books on my shelves. I bought them when I was new to books and I went a little bit crazy. Greenbone Saga was at that point in time very popular on BookTube. So I just want to give it a try. And if I DNF the first book, that's fine. Then it's off the list. Well, we can definitely try. But for channel read-alongs, as long as everybody knows that there is a chance that I DNF it. Because I just know that I cannot deal with that commitment. And there is a chance that I'll DNF it. But I don't know if you're very active on Discord, Ron, but we could always do a read along on Discord and then everybody can hop on or hop off. No pressure. Scared by the cannibalism blog. hmm A sequel is in order, even though I have not seen the first one. Maybe that would be perfect to watch part one and then part two. Okay, 45. Let's do it. Going to make a little bit more progress in this one. Happy reading. Hi everyone. So, reading sprints are done. I hope that all of you made a little bit of progress. I finished another 30 pages. So, steady wins the race, I suppose. I'm now 150 pages in, and the book is. Oh, it's not as long as I thought. It's 416 pages. So, with the progress that I'm currently making, I do think that I will finish this before the end of the week. And by the way, I will also mention my husband is coming home. I don't know when, could be in 5 minutes, could be in 15. But when he does, the dogs will go completely crazy. So if for a while you can hear nothing but barking, that's that. Don't be alarmed. They just get extremely excited when they hear a car in the driveway, and that's bound to happen. So I'm really happy with this because I must say I have been in a little bit of a reading slump. You guys know this, and sometimes it's difficult for me, especially with physical books, if it has a lot going on. The audiobooks at this point are definitely much better for me. I'm actually listening to more audiobooks than I'm reading physically, which for now is fine. It's both the time of the year, being extremely busy at work, and still crawling out of the slump, but then picking up a physical read and actually enjoying it. And for me, at the very least, having a good pace here. I finished, I think, 60 pages during the sprints, but then previously I also read a little bit in this book. So I think that 50 to 100 pages a day for me at this point is very good. So I'm actually extremely relieved. Well, 15 pages in House of Leaves, Jeroen, because if that's the case, that's good progress. Believe me, that's a book. I thought that it was going to go quite quickly because if you look through the book, you can see that there are certain pages that are almost empty, pages that have only one sentence or a word upside down. So I thought that I was going to fly through that book, but especially the start, there are so many words on that page. You have the footnotes that you need to backtrack, and it takes a while. One page in House of Leaves is more than one page in another book. So 15 pages in 45 minutes. Good job. DNF the Christmas Killer. Oh no, Marleen. It was more of a cozy mystery than a thriller, and the writing style was really amateurish, so I abandoned it. Okay, yeah, I can definitely understand that. Christmas Killer in itself, that title, it didn't really give me anything because it can be cozy mystery, like it apparently is, but it could also be a cold blooded thriller. So if that's what you're expecting going in, and then it's not that, yeah, I can definitely understand that. I don't know if you go into books quite blind or if you look them up on Goodreads or YouTube beforehand, because I tend to do that just to not have that happen to me, that you go in and you suddenly realize that it's exactly not what you want. But on the other hand, it can also lead to, I don't think that people want to spoil you, but sometimes it just happens when somebody says that the ending is extremely unsatisfying or that the ending is open or that there's a twist or something like that, you get spoiled. So there's always a risk looking up extra information, but I think that at this point I never go into a book blind. I always know something what's going on. 10 pages and some cuddling with the cats sounds like an amazing evening. Perfect. I must say that one of the dogs was beside me just now, but again, he left. And then the other one, he is pretty deeply asleep at the other end of the couch. So the dogs are quite lazy here. I would like to have some cuddles, but apparently they're just happy if I'm on the couch. If I would be next to the Christmas tree right now, I'm pretty certain that they would just be whining next to me. But if I'm on the couch, if I am accessible, apparently it's fine to just leave me be. 20 pages, especially if you did not read for the entirety of 45 minutes, that's great. What are you reading at the moment, Maddie? Hmm. Yeah, I completely understand that. It's, I also prefer to not know too much, but just have a general feeling. That's great. But you just don't know if you start reading a review or if you look something up on YouTube how much people are going to tell you. So, yeah, if you like to go in as blind as possible, that's probably the safest way to go. Some more of a history, what comes next. Who is the author of that? Because Sleeping Giants, I've heard of Sleeping Giants. Is I want to say that that's a fantasy trilogy, but I'm probably way off again. Sleeping Giants book. Yes, no, I was actually correct this time. That's one of those series that I've seen a lot of people mention a couple of years ago on BookTube. And now I don't really hear too much. I think that one of the dogs heard me. And then History of What Comes Next is by the same author, I suppose. Is it the History What Comes Next? Alternative history story. Mysterious alien race and the long-term plot to help Earthlings get into space. Ooh, it does sound nice. But if I'm looking at Goodreads, and Goodreads is definitely not always correct with their ratings, but 3.65 is not the highest ratings I've seen. It's the first one of Take Them to the Stars. Okay. It's difficult sometimes. Going in with high expectations, low expectations, I think that both can be detrimental at times. So going in blind, sometimes that's nice. I have not been a big reader growing up, but for example, A Song of Ice and Fire and The Name of the Wind, both of those I picked up not really knowing too much. With The Song of Ice and Fire, I had heard of the TV show, of course, so I had a general idea, but The Name of the Wind did not know anything. And when I first picked up Mistborn and The Grim Company by Luke Skull, I also didn't really have an idea because I didn't know that the booktube community existed. And sometimes it's nice, just going into a bookstore, picking up a book that you've never heard before, and then just reading it at home. It might be horrible, but it might be amazing. And now, at least I can't really do that because when I pick up fantasy in bookstores, especially where you have well-known fantasy, I recognize all of the names and I have at least somewhat of an idea what it's about. So I'm always a little bit jealous of people who can still do that. Yeah, sci-fi and mixed media. Okay, so Cleo, you're going back through your backlog of arcs. I salute you. I made a NetGalley account, I think more than a year ago, and I requested 4 arcs, and I received all 4 of them. Now, to be honest, all 4 of them were smaller um, authors or were from smaller authors, but I was not really expecting to be approved. So I ended up being a little bit overwhelmed, and I think that I finished or I started one. No, no, no. I started two, but I did not finish either of those two. So now I'm afraid to go back to NetGalley because I think that at this point nobody is going to approve me for an arc. But I'm definitely not as structured as some other people. Point Counterpoint by Aldous Huxley. Whew, okay, dense. Yeah, I think that Huxley, I'm again, hasn't he written Brave New World or some sci-fi? Aldous Huxley, Brave New World. Okay, got that one right. I have heard of Brave New World, but I have never heard of Point Counterpoint. Okay. Are you enjoying it so far? Because 20 pages, if you have not been reading for the full 45 minutes, that is a good speed, especially if it's a dense book. Hmm. Um, what do we mean with mixed media, by the way? I feel like an idiot, but I have no idea. Sci fi does sound interesting. They keep approving me. Yeah, well, I start feeling a little bit guilty. But I had Ogres by Adrian Tchaikovsky because that one was a novella, and I had heard great things about it. It was only 100 pages long, and I did not read it. I read the first 10 pages and I really enjoyed it, but somehow it just got off my radar. And then I also asked for a collection of short stories about, I actually don't know what it was about. But I read the first two, and I'm not the biggest short stories fan, so I just wasn't really invested. And then I start wondering, why did I ask for a short story collection? I know that I don't like that. Hi, Kitty. How was your get together with the booktuber? I hope you had a lovely time. You went to a Christmas market, right? I still haven't visited a Christmas market this year, and I don't think that it's going to happen. I'm a little bit sad about that because it's part of the cozy atmosphere. Even though 90% of the things that people sell there, I'm not really interested. I'm just interested in the atmosphere. And I always say that I want to go. We don't really have one close by. So it would need to be an event that I plan upfront. So every year I make the intention to go and then it never happens. Mix of reports, articles. Okay, yes. I thought it was a mix of, written and then music, something like that, but that would be difficult in a book. This makes more sense. Thanks for explaining. So, Sleeping Giants is mixed media, but then his new one is not. And did you like the new one more or less? Oh, I forgot. Okay, working better. Oh, that's interesting. Because I think that Sleeping Giants is better received than this one. Sleeping Giants, not that much better. It has 3.83 on Goodreads with 83,000 ratings. And then A History of What Comes Next only has 3,700 ratings, but 3.65 average rating. So if you take that into account, I do think that Sleeping Giants in general has been received better. But to be honest, he is making good progress in his series. At the very least, there's that. Because History of What Comes Next is that, yeah, he already has 3 books out. No, 2 books out in that series, one in 2021, the other one came out in 2022, and then the third book is coming out in 2023. So, okay, go to the Christmas markets for the food. Oh, the third one this year, trying to make up for pandemic years. Yeah, well, like I said, I'm not really the one who knows a lot about Christmas markets, so I even forgot about food. Yes, if I would go, I would probably go for the food as well. That does sound lovely. And the glue wine, because I've never tried glue wine before. I don't think that I would like it, but to be honest, I would just like to give it a try. At this point, I'm just curious. But like I said, we don't really have one. So you have a local market. That's nice. I think that the closest we have is in Hasselt, which is a 30-minute drive. It's still fine, but it's a little bit more of a hassle. But that one also has, I'm wondering, no, it's not true. I was thinking about ice skating, but I can't do that. So I would fail. But I think that the bigger Christmas markets around here do have that. Yeah, well, and what type of food then? Because now I'm thinking, I can only think of glue wine. I can only think of alcohol somehow. But probably like waffles, something with chocolate. Definitely nothing bad at the very least. Yeah, it's glue wine is one of those things that even though I've never, okay, one of the dogs is starting to walk back and forth next to the curtains. So barking is going to happen in probably within the next 30 seconds. Like, please lower the sound because yeah. Rustig hè vrienden. Ja, nee, nee. It's going to be chaos. In German, especially where I live, every town has one. I have once been to the Christmas market in Aachen, and once I needed to go for work to, I'm going to butcher this, Dresden or Dresden, which was difficult to get to because it didn't really have direct flights. So we had to make a stop and then fly to Dresden, which it's not that far. Like Germany is a neighboring country of ours, so it was more hassle than I expected. But they had so many beautiful Christmas markets, and I was in one of the hotels that had view on one of the smaller ones, which was really lovely. I think that I had like a little glass bell for my grandma with like a Christmas or a winter atmosphere, nature tapestry on it. And she was really happy with that one. But yes, German Christmas markets, even though I don't have a lot of experience with those, they are miles better than the ones we have in Belgium. Christmas markets don't really exist in the Netherlands, so most people go to Germany to look at the Christmas markets there. Yeah, the ones that we have, they don't really have the same atmosphere, I think. They are still extremely cozy, but it's just a nice market in winter. While in Germany, I really had the feeling that it lived there and it was Christmas and magical. Oh, smoutable. So churros, blue wine, oysters. Okay, so it's a little bit what we have during kermis or something like that. Just lots of food. Close to Dresden. Part of Germany is never easy to get to. Yeah, really, because we I only needed to be there for 2 days, but in the end I decided to stay a little bit longer because it was the perfect time of the year to visit, and it really was a shame if you do all that trouble. And again, airplanes are also not that good for the environment, so then to only do that for 2 days, it would be ridiculous. I actually don't really remember why I needed to be there for work. Must be some kind of meeting, but I was really happy of the location of my hotel and that I could stay a little bit longer. And now dogs are quiet. So I'm thinking it was false alarm. They probably know that around this time my husband is going to be home. So every time they hear the smallest thing, they start looking everywhere, but it's quiet again. Fried food. Kapfen, dill fried sweet dough. Ooh. Langos, Hungarian fried dough with sour cream and cheese. It does sound really good. I think that when I was in Dresden, I actually didn't buy food because I was always home quite late and I get hangry quite easily. So from the route to the meeting and my hotel was a McDonald's. So I usually, before I could even reach the hotel, had already eaten my share. And then in the evenings, I would get through the Christmas market, but I would have already eaten. And to be honest, I didn't really see too much food there that I remember, but just beautifully crafted Christmas stuff that you don't really have here in Belgium. And the people were extremely, extremely kind, which could also be the Christmas spirit, of course. Okay, I'm having. So, a husband sent a message that he is going to be here in 5 minutes. So, to be honest, I think that it will be a lot safer if we end the sprints right now, so we don't really have that level of chaos here, because you will not be able to hear me when the dogs start barking. So, thank you all for sprinting with me. Next week, it will be again on Tuesdays, or at least fingers crossed, but usually, normally, if nothing goes wrong, that should be the case. For the holidays, so next week it will be Tuesday evening. The week after that and the week after that, I'm actually free. So I will see what will work best for everyone. I will probably ask on Discord and also on the community tab if you want to have sprints on a different in a different part of the day, because I will be able to do that. Maybe later even because I don't have to go to sleep. But right now it's 10 and I do have to go to work tomorrow, so should probably go to bed as soon as my husband arrives. Thanks for joining and bye everyone.